The cinema, the place to come to for film fans in East Kilbride for nearly 20 years. What was once a car park for cinema patrons and town centre shoppers is now the site of the Olympia shopping complex, which, when completed, amongst various other facilities, will feature a new 9-screen cinema. Let's now go inside, where we see that the last films to be screened are The Princess Bride and Dirty Dancing. Mr. Bob Johnson, the cinema manager, proudly displays the no smoking policy which has been in operation for some time, although this wasn't always the case. Now let's go through to Mr. Johnson's office.
Hello, I'm Bob Johnson. I'm the manager of the cinema in East Kilbride. The sequences you're about to see, that will follow just in a few minutes, are taken from the cinema which was built in East Kilbride, first purpose-built cinema in Scotland, I may add, since the end of the last war in 1945. The cinema was built by Laidlaws of Rutherglen at a cost of £500,000, which by today's standard doesn't seem a very lot, but we must bear in mind that we didn't have decimalisation when the cinema was built. The cinema took over 3 years to build and was opened on the 2nd of December 1968. The film shown at the opening was Tommy Steele in half a sixpence, shown in 17mm, and a screen the dimension of which was 70 foot by 29. I may add that's the biggest cinema screen ever in Scotland, and it is to this day. The cinema has a seating capacity. It's built for 1,000, which was later cut back to 915. During the operation of the cinema over the last 20 years, the policy pursued was a booking policy, and our booking department opened in the mornings at 9:30, carried on until 9:30 in the evening, a total of 12 hours, which was quite unique in the cinema business. There's no other cinema ever carried that out, to my knowledge, not only in Scotland but in the UK. We also did telephone bookings 4 weeks in advance, which was greatly appreciated by the local public in general. When the cinema opened up, the prices were 2 and 6pence and 3 and 6pence, going up to 7 and 6. When we close today, that's on May the 28th, 1988, 20 years on, the prices will be £2 and £1 for senior citizens and children. Cinema also carried in within, as an amenity, within the 4 walls, a lounge bar, a licensed lounge bar, and a coffee bar for the younger members of the community. Going back to 1968 when the cinema opened, I can always remember the first Saturday morning. We ran the Children's Club exclusively for age groups 5 to 8 or 9 years of age, and I came along this Saturday morning about 9:30 to open up this Children's Club, and we had a queue fully 12 deep, stretching from the cinema door about 300 or 400 yards to the Olympia in the far distance. And I can remember looking at that queue and saying to myself, God, I'll never cope with this, you know. With the result, we had to call out the local constabulary, and they reckoned, even when we had the cinema full, 1,000 children in, we still had 4,000 or 5,000 people awaiting the pleasure of being admitted. The cinema club ran for a period of maybe 12 or 14 years, until such time as television took over with popular children's programmes in the mornings, when it started to taper off and we in turn discontinued the project altogether. The cinema over the 20 years has been open, has been highly popular with local people, not only local people but a catchment area. We drew from Straven, Motherwell, Wishaw, Hamilton. We drew patrons from all around that area. I can only assume they came to East Kilbride Cinema because it was a comfortable cinema and the acoustics were very, very good. Presentation was good and the sight lines were excellent. In our cinema here in the auditorium, you can sit in any seat. You don't have to stretch your neck or jump around to see what's going on the screen. The sight lines are really excellent. Something you don't get in some of the cinemas in the city centre or in London. As I said, the cinema is due to close tonight. That's Saturday, 28th May 1988, after an operation of 19 and a half years. I had the honour of being the first manager in this cinema when it opened up, and I treated that as an honour. It was the first cinema East Kilbride had ever had, and as I said earlier on in this interview, it was the first purpose-built cinema in Scotland, not only Scotland but the UK. The sequences I'm sure you'll enjoy that's going to follow.
The foyer, and the building that we see opposite was once a bingo hall. Ironically, the fate of the cinema in the not too distant future. In the auditorium, some ashtrays still remain from the time when patrons were allowed to smoke in the premises. Here we see the three different sizes of screen: widescreen, cinemascope, and 70mm, the largest screen in Scotland. A quick tour of the gents, just to illustrate that every need was catered for, and that the standard of hygiene was first class. This stage was specially constructed for the Scottish National Orchestra, whose first performance was to mark the American Festival in Britain. Let's now go upstairs and view what remains of the once famous coffee bar, which, sadly, hasn't been open to the public for a number of years. It now lies quiet, deserted, and in a state of neglect. Directly ahead is the entrance to Screen 2, which was once the lounge bar and now houses a 10x8 Sony video screen. Still on display are some posters from just a few of the many past presentations. One last lingering look over the auditorium. And, as the last patron, who was graciously allowed the luxury of a reserved seat, surveys the glory of the East Kilbride cinema for the final time, we come to the end of an era.